Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. Dear God, let the backlog end. Sorry again for the late release. Still trying to catch up and no end in sight. We'll have to work through Saturday to get it done. Some of these news items will be pretty surface level to save time. Definitely a lot to get through, and a lot of it is actually really good news. Well, let's get to it. Shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Peter Park and Shay Meehan, as well as all our other patrons. You are my heroes. Thank you for taking this journey with me. All right, so here's a fresh consequence you may not have predicted from the pandemic. Low-income students are dropping out of or failing to attend college in alarming numbers, raising fears of a lost generation. Some 100,000 fewer high school seniors completed financial aid applications to attend college this year, according to a National College Attainment Network analysis for federal student aid data through August. Typically, enrollment jumps during economic downturns when jobs are scarce and people look to retrain, yet the opposite is happening now, and only 13% of college dropouts ever return after leaving, according to a National Student Clearinghouse report last year. Enrollment trends so far show especially steep drops among Black students and rural white students. They are facing multiple setbacks as colleges reopen mostly online, consisting of cost, internet or computer access, homelessness, lacking a quiet place to work, frustration or uncertainty about online classes, changing class formats or content, loss of access to campus resources with no reduction in tuition, and fear of contracting COVID. The economy and our people are already in dire straits. College was already extremely closely tied to financial outcomes in life, and not for nothing, susceptibility to misinformation and conspiracies that are tearing our country apart also correlate to education. What happens when that education drops out from under an entire generation? I'll say this. Biden's free community college and his and Yang's trade school proposals are sounding better than ever. Speaking of the pandemic, we are now finding from one of thousands of internal post office documents obtained by watchdog group American Oversight that the USPS had drafted a press release announcing plans to send 650 million masks out, 5 to every U.S. household, back in April, but the White House abandoned that plan. The plan originated with the Department of Health and Human Services and implies that we had enough masks at the time and could have immediately prepared all Americans to stem the spread of COVID. The newly uncovered documents suggest the government had initially intended to utilize the USPS in early pandemic response plans, but the program came at a time when Trump was largely hostile to masks, if he can be said to not be hostile to them now, and the White House canceled the program. Fitting previous evidence suggesting that the federal response has been organized around Trump's misinformation campaign and downplaying of the threat, an administration official told the Post, quote, "There was concern from some in the White House Domestic Policy Council and the Office of the Vice President that households receiving masks might create concern or panic," end quote. Well, thank goodness we didn't cause people any concern by sending them what they needed to be safe from a deadly plague that ended up killing tens of thousands of us. Really dodged a bullet there. How have we come to the point where anyone is considering giving a mass murderer a second term? How? There's also an article summarizing all the ways in which the USPS has been politicized and manipulated recently. Far too much to dig into here. In Canada, 78 academic researchers and teachers representing a range of disciplines wrote Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, urging their support for Motion 46 and the implementation of a permanent guaranteed livable basic income. We need more of this advocacy in the U.S. Where are our Yang Gang artists, academics, politicians, economists, etc. banding together and going on record? Let's get it done. There seems to be a lot of confusion of a subject of interest recently, so let me try to clear this up. What is known as a jungle primary is not the same as an open primary. A jungle primary basically means there is no party primary. You just run a two-phase general election. This would massively hurt candidate selection because it would exacerbate vote splitting or spoilers. The more candidates a party runs, the more they split their votes, and the more likely they are to lose to the other party's candidate. A jungle primary would likely result in each party basically choosing one candidate by committee and discouraging any others from running, much worse than party primaries, where any number can run without weakening the party in the general. At least that's my understanding from the article. The reason we're talking about it is that a jungle primary is on the ballot in Florida. Open primaries, where each party has a primary but you don't have to register with the party to vote in it, is the way to go. That and star voting and other reforms to make more parties and independents viable, less partisan, and more representative of the people. Reminder for residents in Missouri to vote no on Amendment 3, which is an attempt to overturn anti-gerrymandering laws. We've talked about how important that is. Oppose gerrymandering like your life depends on it, because it very well may in indirect ways. Reminder as well that in-person voting is already happening in some places, such as Virginia, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. Make sure you are registered and aware of everything you need to vote and have it count. Also, I think I said before that all mail-in ballots have a place to sign on both the ballot and the envelope. If so, that is not entirely correct. Only some states have 2 signatures, some only have 1. Just be sure you know which applies to you and examine your ballot and envelope closely. You can also check up on your vote online after you submit it to make sure there is no problem with your signature or anything else. If you send it early and keep track, you'll have time to fix any errors. TurboLink can help with all of this at the link below. Remember that the Income March is hosting a phone banking session with Humanity Forward on Monday that we should all join in. Donna Imam put out a great commercial worth watching, link below. Paget had a check-in interview with the Truckers for Yang organization the other day that you can view in the links. A new article sheds further light on Finland's basic income trial, emphasizing the massive improvements in health, happiness, and even functional IQ. The latter is one we don't have as much empirical evidence for, in direct correlation to UBI at least, so I'm very happy to see that. Share it out and put it in your evidence folder. Leeds became the largest city in the UK to be swayed by UBI Lab to pass legislation calling for a federal UBI. I am so grateful to UBI Lab. They are doing so much work over there. Major props to them. And finally, the US has our own victory to celebrate, as we have not 1 but 2 new mayors for a guaranteed income today. Both Mount Vernon's Mayor Patterson Howard and Providence's Mayor Elorza have signed up and announced their intent to launch guaranteed income projects in their cities. This is spreading like wildfire. I don't have time to dig into their proposals, but it sounds like both are of the means-tested variety. While otherwise unconditional cash is definitely a step up from normal welfare, I do worry that these conditional trials could give UBI a bad name, as they retain the 3 biggest problems with welfare, which are access, bureaucracy, and poor incentives. Mixed feelings, but it's definitely great to have 2 new mayors promoting guaranteed income. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Bookmark and share the Finland study, UBI academic endorsement letter, and the Florida jungle primary thread. Share the Missouri gerrymandering amendment, the UBI phone banking on Monday, turbo vote, Donna's commercial, and Patterson and Elorza joining MGI. Help recruit other organizations to the cause and get everyone to sign the UBI petition. Flood Congress and Trump with calls, tweets, and letters using the Resist Bot or Income Movement easy contacts below. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, United Way, or the H3 podcast thread. And don't forget to Yang Daily.